I am making gravy from scratch. I used the flour that I battered my pork chops with. This is the flour I battered my pork chops with. I cut up some onions. Cut up onions. And these are my pork chops. My pork chops. There's more. I'll be making dry pork chops, and I will be making pork chops and gravy. And these are the onions that I've cut up, and I'll be cutting up more for other things. And this is the onions. The grease that I poured out. From my frying the pork chop. I'm not going to use that because it'll probably taste burnt, so I don't want that. But this is the grease I poured off of it. And this is the grease that I poured in my gravy to get it started to fry the onions. And this is, oh, then you get to keep them. And this is what it looks like, kind of thick, which means I need to add boiling water. I have my water on in my tea kettle back here, boiling. Haven't boiled yet, but it's hot. So I'm gonna pour more water to loosen up my gravy. And you just keep doing this over and over and over again until you get the gravy the texture you want. Even though it looks juicy and watery, as it settles, it will thicken up some more. So you have to just keep, it's trial and error. You just have to just keep working with it. And even as it get cold, your gravy will thicken up even more. So you just have to work with it and kind of know what you're dealing with. But if it's keep being thick, all you got to do is just keep adding water a little bit at a time, so you won't end up having soupy, runny gravy. And if you do have it like that, then you would need to add more flour. And when you add more flour, you want to probably use a spoon at a time. But I won't be adding any flour in my gravy because it's already thick enough, and I don't want it to be too thick. I also, when it's cooking like this, I'll take 2 bouillon cubes. I will use chicken bouillon cubes. I'll use 2 of them. And I'll put them in a little bit later, but this is what they look like if you want to buy some. They come in little blocks like that. But I'm going to get my gravy the texture that I wanted before I add it in. And I will be adding more. See the texture that it is? It's not runny, but this is good. But once it cools off, it's gonna be thicker than that. See? When it cools off, it'll be a little bit thicker than that. So that means I'll have to add more water. So when I get ready to put my bouillon cube in it, and I put the bouillon cube in it for flavor, for seasoning in the gravy, because sometimes the gravy won't have any seasoning at all in it once you start mixing it up. So you put bouillon cubes in it. I'm using chicken bouillon cubes, but I'm gonna get it a little thinner before I add my bouillon cubes in it, and it'll give it the right flavor. And then when you start putting your pork chops in the gravy, the flavor off the pork chop and your seasoning off your pork chop is going to give your gravy some more seasoning, and it'll be good. And you'll also put your pork chops and the gravy, different places in it, and you can put them on top of each other some too, because all you're doing is tenderizing it. All you're doing is tenderizing the pork chops. And pork chops are usually tender anyway. They're not tough unless you cook them too long. So there you go. This is the texture. It's boiling. And look at it. That's good. So I'm going to let it do that a little while. And then I'm going to add my bouillon cubes in it, a little bit more water, and then I'll start adding my pork chops in the gravy. Okay, I'm going to sign off right now, and I will come back to you later. And right now, I'm doing pork chops in gravy, cooking pork chops in gravy and onion, like I did my liver the other day. So if you want to see more, touch subscribe to all my videos, and you'll get to be able to see everything that I'm doing in the kitchen. I enjoy doing this for you all, and stay tuned. I will be back. Ciao.